Back here on the Duncan Duo show talking about the Tampa Bay real estate market. Andrew Duncan, joined by Robert Johnson, president of the Duncan Duo team, and Aaron Davis with Strategic Title. And so we get a lot of people asking us questions about buying a house and doing an Airbnb or VRBO and renting it out. And there's some great things that can happen from that. There's some bad things. There's pros and cons, just like there are with anything else. So whether you are someone that lives in Tampa Bay or you're a vacationer here now and you really like Tampa Bay and you're thinking, you know what, I'd really like to, buy a property here and use it a few times a year, make some money. We're going to talk in this next segment, these next few minutes, about the pros and cons of that, things you need to look out for, things you need to pay attention to. And I think, it's a hot topic because, it's something that you've seen people go out and advertise. I get social media marketing now from people that are sponsoring ad campaigns with the next Airbnb rental system, how to teach you how to be an Airbnb landlord, and, just simply send us $997 and then 4 payments of $497. But wait, there's more.
Become the Uber of rental houses.
Yeah,
that's right.
So the reality is that just like anything else, there's good and bad. And so the very first obstacle that you need to think about if you're considering doing it and renting out a house in that kind of fashion is it legally allowed?
Yep.
That's step one.
And you've got to check with the local governments and municipalities just to see if it's allowed. Here locally in the Tampa Bay market, you take like the Anna Maria Island area, cut into 3 different areas: the city of Anna Maria, Holmes Beach, and Braden Beach, and each one of them have different rules, and they pass. One area is only monthly rental versus one's weekly, and they had the Airbnbers try to come in and they passed legislation that you have to register the homes independently for renting, and you can't do it for a single day. There's a lot of people that live there that don't
want transient
hotels.
That's right.
The transient hotels, and Nashville did the same thing recently, and pretty much just banned Airbnb because of the hotel industry taking a whack.
And some communities, like condo communities, do it too. You'll have a certain condo community that'll have rental restrictions, and they'll say, oh, the shortest rental period is this or that. And there's people that go out there and they don't read the condo documents, they don't read the HOA disclosure, and they buy it, and then they go in an uproar after the fact. So. I think that's common. We deal with that, unfortunately. You got to read the condo docs. You got to read the HOA disclosure.
Yeah, and as far as Airbnb, one of the reasons why we have such low state taxes is because tourists pay a lot of our taxes. A lot of that gets passed on to hotel taxes and bank taxes and a whole bunch of other stuff. So if you turn around, and I know you're supposed to pay taxes on Airbnb, but if you turn around and you're not paying the appropriate taxes, which I allegedly I think a lot of people probably aren't, you're really making it more likely for us as locals to have increased taxes down the line.
Correct. Yeah, and I think the other thing to think about is, in addition to making sure that you're legally able to do it, because I think that's I think that's an important part of it, but assessing your skill set. So I have done the Airbnb in other parts of the country, and I've had people that were my hosts that should not be operating basically a business. Their photos are bad, their descriptions are bad, they don't respond, they're rude, they got horrible reviews. It's like, look, this is an economy that you kind of have to understand and get. You're going to have to be nice to everybody. You're going to sometimes have to eat, poop, and grin. Yeah. You're going to have to make stuff happen.
Well, look at the beaches right now. I mean, it sounded like a great idea. I buy a house 6 months ago, I'm going to do that, and all of a sudden, red tide. Right?
Yeah.
The unknown hits, and all of a sudden,
and if you're mortgaged,
that's
good
right.
luck.
That's right. Not to mention, you got to carry all the utilities. You got to have the water and the cable and the electricity. All that's in your name, so it may look great as an idea on paper, but then your net may not be what you think.
Or a storm comes through. That's right. You've got those scenarios.
Or Andrew parties and trashes the place.
Making sure that you have the right insurance. I've seen people buy it. There are people out there that, I can buy it as my primary. And then not ever move into it, turn it to a VRBO, but wait, I forgot to change my homeowner's insurance policy from a occupant to an HO3, and now, whoops, my claim got denied. I'm sorry, sir, we can't pay that.
I'm sorry, officer, I did not mean to commit mortgage fraud.
Exactly. So the reality is that there are a lot of people out there skirting the rules and kind of working in the gray area with Airbnb and VRBO. And again, can it be successful? Yes. Do you need to have a well thought out plan? Yes. Do you need to have some marketing skills, some communication and customer service skills? Yes. And you also need to be ready for change, like you talked about. There's obviously taxing challenges. There's municipalities and areas that don't want it. You go out and buy an Airbnb in a neighborhood and they decide to change the rules. You're not grandfathered in.
Yeah.
Guess what? Your business basically just went out of business. So you have to be really cautious when you're doing that. And I see people all the time say, "Oh well, I know what the condo says, but I think I can get away with it."
Mm-hmm.
And okay, sure you can. Aaron, how many times do you deal with liens
Oh,
about
Lord.
stuff like that from HOAs when they're liening properties for violations of homeowner violations?
Oh, I can't tell you how, remember the hedge fund run a few years ago when all the big private equities were buying up rentals in communities they didn't know had the restrictions. And
Exactly.
all of a sudden, they put renters in there. HOA says, get out.
Right. Yeah, and again, there's good and bad to everything. And I think you can be successful with Airbnb and VRBO, but you have to be cautious. We have a customer right now that's looking Anna Marie Island, and they're looking at up to a $2 million house, and their idea was we live they spend time in 3 different countries, they travel a lot, and their idea was if we want to, we could here and there maybe rent it out to friends and family. Wait a second, because some of these areas, some of these communities you're looking at don't allow that. So you gotta factor that in. You gotta read these. You gotta do some research, and that's where I think having a good buyer agent really comes in handy. There's so many people that the last few years there's so many people that got into the business that sell a house here and there, and they just don't have the relevant experience to navigate through all these things, and don't know how to answer those questions, and don't know. They don't know what they don't know, and so the reality is that there have been transactions. I mean, we have a listing right now that we're selling that was somebody bought it, got bad advice from another real estate agent, and then less than a couple of months put it right back on the market. And so the tough struggle with the industry right now and how hot it's been is that it does attract a lot of new people into the industry, and there's certainly some good with that. You get disruption, you get change, you get youthful innovation, but there's some downside. Poorly trained, poorly educated, and I don't mean poorly educated in terms of their education prior to real estate. I mean poorly educated about how to do a real estate transaction, because the industry grew so much that some of these companies that added gobs of agents didn't have the resources to properly train them. So there's stuff out there going on right now where people aren't getting the best advice that they could, and making these types of mistakes. So that it's really is crucial, and I think it goes back to the importance of having a buyer agent versus going directly to the seller's agent. Seller's agents working for the seller. They want to get the best price for the seller. That's their customer. You're certainly a needed piece because you're going to buy it, but their loyalty in a lot of instances, is to the seller. So you got to keep that in mind if you really want somebody to, kind of represent your interests. So
well, and I think a good buyer's agent is not only going to be able to answer questions for you, but they're going to bring about the questions that you should be asking yourself, and they're going to say, "Hey, have you thought about this?" And they're going to educate you on that. And I think, especially if you're a first-time, if you're a first-time investor into real estate, where you either want to rent the property out or use it as a vacation home or use it as an Airbnb or a VRBO, I think you need to have a buyer agent that knows the ins and outs of that and stuff that you need to look for that you probably, as a first-time buyer for something like that, haven't even thought about.
yeah, no doubt.